human flight, the whole act of defying gravity, it's something that's inspired generations. But what if you could take on the challenge in an entirely different way? What about if you really leveraged the human mind and body and added just the right amount of technology in a minimalist fashion to achieve that goal? Well, this is the slightly unusual story of achieving this, and I'll spoil the end by saying that at the end of this talk, I'm going to rush away and then try and actually do it live for you outside. So that's the exciting bit at the end. So the story, so nothing like putting pressure on myself to prove we can do it. The story really centers around the human mind and body. My background was, apart from being an oil trader for 16 years in the City of London, which wasn't very helpful, was actually, I spent quite a lot of time in the military and doing a lot of physical training and things. And I used to be able to get close to doing that, but it's a good demonstration of just how awesome the human mind and body is if you apply enough focus to a challenge. But you're missing something. You're missing a form of power or horsepower, because as much as I'd like to think you could flap your way to this outcome, that's not going to happen. So this was our ground zero moment, about 2016. Alongside a day job, I started messing around with these little micro gas turbines. It's a baby jet engine, basically, standing in a lane with an aluminium tube on my arm and a mop bucket as the fuel tank. There was a fuel tank in the mop bucket. It wasn't just sloshing around with fuel. I'm not quite that crazy, but nearly. That worked so well that actually we thought, well, let's go to the next level and get two. Two turned out to work really quite well. We've upgraded to a field, and you'll notice in a minute that as soon as I try and point them sideways, you can see the 100 pounds of thrust is really quite a challenge to offset. All of this was like forging our way through a load of learnings that otherwise would be very hard to do from a desk study. We had this ethos of just getting out there and learning from mostly failing, to be honest, but failing as safely as we could. So if 2 works that well, guess what? 4 works really well. This is all in a farmyard in the UK. Now you can see I'm not really coming down too quick anymore, but it's still not quite enough thrust. So we carried on this journey. This is kind of an experiment with a tether. I did get a little tired of falling over on that farmyard, so I thought the tether might be helpful. Not so much. It just created another kind of vector to try and balance. And you see now I've got engines on my legs, and that kind of made sense, but also didn't as well. It turns out that as you bend your knee, the thrust obviously correspondingly kind of makes you rotate. You'll see there's all sorts of examples. Here we go. A sort of moon landing, jumping around, sort of learning the balance, like riding a bike. Your brain's trying to struggle to feel this control. And then you see my legs, look, bending knees didn't work, but I was still quite pleased with myself because I hadn't fallen over. We tried the setup where you have 1 on each leg and 2 on each arm. And on paper, that was enough to fly. That was enough to get me off the ground. But there's no rule book, there's no guidebook for how to do this whatsoever, unsurprisingly. But we were getting there, tantalizingly close. And again, I'll say this alongside, a normal job, evenings and weekends. I had a very tolerant family. I have still, shouldn't say had. Last I checked, anyway. And this was really progressing quite well. But then there's the moment, which I'm still kind of most proud of, despite what I'm going to show you after this. This was about November 2016, and that first one in the lane with the bucket and the single engine, that was only March 2016. So it's been a pretty quick journey. This was the first flight. I'm wrestling that leg, but I just about held it together. There's no cables or anything like that. That is the first time we flew with a bunch of jet engines attached to the human body. It was only 6 seconds, but since then, all it's been about has been a process of constant evolution and improvement. And this little show reel that's coming up then gives you a snapshot of some of the 26 countries, and this is event 83 that we've done all over the world in the next, in the 2 years since we did that first crazy flight. So you can see, I'll try and narrate some of these. That one at the very beginning was the Maldives. One was the Farnborough Air Show. I was in the British Royal Marines for some time, and I've flown for them. That was doing a car launch in China. That was a beautiful shot in the Maldives. That was quite nice. That was drag racing a car. That was Camarillo in LA. That was Tokyo, opening a baseball stadium with 30,000 people. That was a stressful one to make sure it started first time. This was in Budapest, does it say? No, Prague. There we go, I don't even know where I've been. Bangkok only a few weeks ago. So what's turned out, after starting genuinely with no reason for doing this other than just, wow, wouldn't it be cool if it worked? It's turned into, and now a really quite big organization that, as I say, has been all over the world, and our observed reaction of when you do this, and again, I'm putting pressure on myself to make sure this works outside in a matter of minutes, is the effect is insane. It blows people's minds. There's something almost like an autistic reaction to seeing a human being move around like this. Now, aside from doing events, and you can see there's a smattering of those, we also raised some money accidentally from Tim and Adam Draper in a car park in San Mateo on the way to do TED 2017, but I'll tell you about that outside if you're interested. We've done all sorts of TV media stuff all over the world, and it's been an amazing way, such a privilege really, to kind of poll people's reactions to this. But we also do flight training for people, so there is a really nice little example there. We tether people up. It does look a bit like a hangman's gallows, but that's not the intention. It's a nice way of starting to feel that balance, and ludicrously, I haven't got enough time to show you the footage, but the record is one of our team learning to fly this in 4 minutes. That was 3 goes, each of 90 seconds or so, and it, again, like riding a bicycle, you just feel this intuitive balance. Because the power is so intimate to you, if you start falling this way, well, guess what? You just put your arm out. That works without jet engines attached, but it works really well if there's jet engines attached to your arms. And you just come back into balance. It's a very strange process. We've even sold a couple of these. This one was the last one we sold to a guy in New York for $440,000. It's entirely 3D printed. We've got 2 outside, actually, because just before this event, we were filming with, well, confidentially with a camera company that's going to do a really cool launch in September. We're only a couple of hours away from here, so we've got 3 suits with us at the moment, but you'll see 2 outside. Those are aluminium 3D printed arm assemblies that hold the engines to you, and the backpack of the one outside, mostly, to be honest, is all polymer 3D printed as well. The R&D journey just doesn't slow down. We're even developing a winged version. So far, we've done 55 miles an hour by actually gradually accelerating into the airflow and sort of deploying a wing into the airflow. Again, with the time we've got, we can't go into that, but you'll see a little snapshot of it in a show reel in a minute. But really, if I just take a step back, then you know, why are we doing this? Well, it was the joy of the challenge, and now having achieved the basics, we just have opened a door into a whole new world of human kind of mobility that we never thought possible. Yes, maybe it will lead to something that will be more mainstream, but in the meantime, I mean, what's the point of an Indy car or a Formula One car? It's to entertain and inspire. And we really do that. I mean, again, unless I don't start in a few minutes, you will see why this has had such a big impact. But it has such a massive impact on young people and kids. I've got a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old, and I know the challenge of trying to get them to look up from the iPad or the iPhone for even a few minutes. Well, believe me, when you land at a school in Shanghai, they drop their phones. There's 4,000 kids in an arena in Boston there for another event. So we've done stuff all over the place, and it's so lovely to bring that almost childlike joy, not just to children, but to adults as well. But you know, we've got to keep this journey going. I'm very proud of the fact that this has actually been self-fueling from a commercial point of view. We generated over $3 million in the first 2 years of this startup. But how do we scale that? Well, we take the experience of doing this in front of audiences and supersize it. And the way we do that is a race series. We've already started filming some of this. We've got various different engagements going on. But our ability to produce authentic, original content that looks more like it should be a Marvel CGI reel, I mean, again, I'll leave it to you to be convinced by what you'll see later. But this is a very short little snapshot of some of what we can do. Some of this footage is shot with FPV drones as well, and that looks insane. You'll see I'm wearing they're not MC Hammer trousers. That's one of the experimental leg wings. The reason for doing it over water is so that can happen. When you get a crash, then if you do it at speed, doesn't really matter. You just fall in the water, there's an automatic life jacket goes off. We can bring that visceral kind of sensation of fear and drama that frankly used to be in Formula One like 15, 20 years ago. I'm delighted for the drivers it doesn't exist and it's very safe now. But from an audience excitement point of view, if you can create the perception of risk and drama and have that human being at the center of it all, and there's the wing, that's so fun. If you can keep the human being at the center of this, then you go and have 3, 4, 5 guys and girls from different sporting backgrounds that are famous already, and then they assemble at water locations in city centers all over the world and go racing 1,000 horsepower jet suits, and then the first, second, third land literally bang, bang, bang on podiums 20 feet in front of the audience, mask off, and then there is your hero or heroine straight in front of you. I think we can take some of the most powerful elements and aspects of Formula One, Red Bull Air Race, and drone racing and mash that together. And the cool thing is, we're doing this anyway. I set up a startup some years ago at the back end of my oil trading days, and I kind of am familiar with that world. I'm so proud of the fact that we are self-funding through our own actual hard work of doing flight experiences, doing all these events, and even selling the occasional suits. But you watch us in 5, I think it's 10 minutes or so outside, and if you're interested to join this remarkable journey, then please step up. We've got 2 suits outside, and come and see us out there. Thank you very much.